This evening on The Rock Newman Show, B.Smith earned tremendous success as a fashion model in the 1970s, gracing the cover of numerous national magazines. She later gained recognition as a restaurateur, TV host, and lifestyle guru. The man behind much of her success was her husband and business partner, Dan Gasby. Tragically, this vital, dynamic woman now suffers from Alzheimer's. We'll talk with Dan about his commitment of support and challenge of being an Alzheimer's caregiver. That's coming up right now on The Rock Newman Show. Welcome to The Rock Newman Show from the campus of historic Howard University right here in the nation's capital. I'm Rock Newman, and it is my desire to inspire you with personal stories of extraordinary achievement. My guest this time is speaker, author, and business executive Dan Gasby. Dan is also the husband and primary caregiver of the phenomenal TV host, restaurateur, and lifestyle guru B.Smith, now suffering from Alzheimer's disease. We're going to talk with Dan about his life with her, the challenges of being an Alzheimer's caregiver, and the optics involved when your loved one says, move on with your life, and what I call the rules of engagement for Alzheimer's caregivers. Dan, welcome. Thank you so much for coming down
Rock,
to join us.
my pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
I want to start the show with a video that we have. And then come back and delve into this critically important subject. Let's take a look.
Okay. Once he said to me, "Hey, honey." I go, "What?" "You never guess what happened." I go, "What happened?" "I forgot I had Alzheimer's."
If you have Alzheimer's, it doesn't just go away.
It's a tough.
But, you know, it's tough, but it's not the worst thing that can happen. It isn't, because on a day-to-day basis, you know, I feel pretty good, and I try to make sure that, you know, all of us in the family are, you know, feeling good.
You expect and always think that the person will operate at their zenith, especially someone like B, who has the ability to do so many different things over the course of her life, and who I've watched in amazement.
In the beginning, when it was, you know, starting to happen with me, I didn't get it. I have a true rock. My best friend.
When you think about the incident of Alzheimer's within the African American community, which is overwhelming and devastating, when you realize that a woman over the age of 65 has a twice as likely chance of having Alzheimer's as having breast cancer, when you think about the stigma that's attached, and then when you realize that it's the single most costly disease in the United States, and so little money is applied to funding for awareness and research, it just made sense to say, we got to put a line in the sand and make a difference. I'm believing the one rule. If it makes a difference and it could help one person, then it's worthwhile.
Dan, that video was shot 4 years ago.
Yes.
First question, how is B today? How was she last night? How has she been the last week? How is she doing now?
Rock, watching that video is probably the toughest thing I could do. because I see where she was 4 years ago and I see where she is today. And to be quite honest, she is a toddler. She is no longer B. She is still a wonderful spirit, a human being, but the thing about Alzheimer's is that it unravels your past. It shreds it. She doesn't know what day, what week, what month, what year it is.
Right.
She, if you ask her who her parents are, she doesn't know. But she will call me Bill, which was her father's name, or she'll call me Daddy, or she will say, I'm going to see my mother. So where she is right now, you know, and I've studied this in the 7 steps of Alzheimer's, from one being just recognizing it, that it's been diagnosed, to 7. She's somewhere in the 6th stage. So she's well along in the journey. The good news, or the challenge, is that she's in such remarkable shape that she, from her eyebrows down, she's still someone to be envied. And from the eyebrows up, she's someone that has a debilitating, life-ending disease. So you're always trapped dealing with this, because there's such a conundrum in terms of how you feel and what you know, and the more you know causes you to do one of 2 things. You can get into an emotional depression, or you can learn how to let go so that you can be strong enough to take care of the changes and the things that are coming. And I had to make that choice because I love her. I will always love her. But I realize the B that I had for 27 years is no longer the B that I have now.
You know, I specifically, I want to share this. And, you know, frankly, I'm sharing it without getting your permission. I think it'll be okay. I sent you a text, and I said, given all the dynamics, as opposed to coming the day of taping, can you come the night before? And you said, wow, I got to make arrangements for B. And that just struck me, and it is something that I wanted to share with my viewing audience, because that was illuminating for me since we talked a month or so ago and talked about you appearing on the show. I've done various research and studied and talked to many people about this. But wow, I got to make arrangements for B. In other words, you couldn't tell me that you could come because you had to place the significance and importance on making arrangements for B first.
Everything you do, I'm in a club. There's 5.5 million people as we sit here, or 5.7 million people right now as we sit here with Alzheimer's. Let's just say there's 2 to 3 people, just Alzheimer's alone. There's about 15 million people like me right now, in some form or fashion, having to make arrangements. Now, some people take the option of, soon as they hear the person has Alzheimer's, they put them in a facility.
Yes.
I wasn't going to do that because I made a commitment to her, because I love her.
In my reading and in my research, the number of people that just booked, just broke camp. I can't handle it. They go off.
It is like chewing glass. It is a mind-numbing, thankless job. Just imagine if you were in a desert and you found an oasis and there was water there, but the only thing you could pick the water up with was a colander. And every time you get the water to your mouth, there's nothing there. Well, that's the same way you're dealing with Alzheimer's and caring. There is no give back. There is constant 24/7 struggle. They're constantly moving. They're constantly taking things apart. They're constantly destroying things.
You're talking about the people suffering from
the people. The person who is dealing with the Alzheimer's person, they've got to manage this person minute to minute.
Yes. Okay.
You fall asleep on the sofa, they could be out the door.
Yeah.
You go to sleep at night, you sleep with one eye open and one ear attuned. So it is a totally thankless job that everyone who's looking from the outside in can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they don't do it. It kills people.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, literally, the people who suffer from Alzheimer's even more in the near term are the caregivers. 7 out of 10 people predecease the person that they're caring for.
That is precisely a statistic that blew my mind. That, I'm going to repeat, that 7 out of 10 caregivers for Alzheimer's patients with dementia predecease the patient that they're caring for. So that, I mean, that must mean that there is a level of stress in dealing with this matter that supersedes most stress that one might experience in a lifetime.
They say that the stress of caring for someone with Alzheimer's is the same stress of having a child that is terminally ill or kidnapped, and the period that you're working for them to either be found or be returned is that type of stress daily. Let me put it in another perspective. What you have is a situation where no matter what you do, you know it's hopeless. You can't pray this away. You can't turn your back and walk away and not feel some sort of, gee, why me? Why me? What did I do to deserve this as the caregiver? And then at the same time, you say, what did she deserve? But why me? Anyone who's gone through this, and within families, and I get hundreds, literally, because I've been an advocate from the day I found out she had Alzheimer's, contrary to a lot of beliefs, like I just suddenly showed up. 5 people in a family, right? Let's just say 4 brothers and sisters. One person has Alzheimer's, the mother's still alive. Who's gonna step up? You know what happens? It's like in the military. There's 2 ways of stepping up. You either step up or everybody steps back and one person is left. One person is left with the responsibility, and the other 3 or 4 are there to critique and criticize. It kills the person. The loneliness, the frustration, when you're caring for that person, you said 7 out of 10, let me tell you the other things. People who care for them don't take care of themselves, don't get the necessary checkups, they don't heal as fast, they're more susceptible to colds and flus because their immune systems are down. They have a tendency to be more depressed.
Did you experience what the symptoms that you just talked about?
All of them.
Really?
Because you got to remember, Brock, you've known me a long time. B and I were a couple that I could look across the room and read what she was saying with her eyes and mine to hers. We never argued. I went 18 plus years. We never had one argument at all. We built businesses.
I'm going to tell you something.
But let me just finish this one point.
Sure.
We built, but the day I started to look into her eyes and knew there's nothing there, or what's happening, was the day I started to have almost symbiotic Alzheimer's, confused. And the day we got the diagnosis, 5 years before that, I was keeping it quiet. I thought, and I say this in the book before I forget, I call it the WTF period, and I was sharing some information backstage. It would be like me talking to you right now, and I don't like your shirt, and I go, Newman, why are you wearing that shirt? What's wrong with you? That shirt doesn't go. And you go, and then 5 minutes later, I go, Rock, so good to see you. And you go, WTF, what? Where did that come from? And that's the building block of Alzheimer's. And what it really is, just think of it like this. If we didn't have modern meteorological technology and it started to rain, how do you know it's just a rainstorm or it's a hurricane? Or if it's a hurricane, it's Superstorm Sandy. You don't know. And that's the way Alzheimer's, all of a sudden, little things start to build and accrete. And then they become bigger and more repetitive, and then all of a sudden, you're in the northeast quadrant of all hell breaking loose, because all of a sudden you realize the person is no longer there.
You know something you just mentioned that I want to come back to, that you guys never argue.
Yeah.
And I want to say something, because a viewer might look out and say, you know, that's easy to say. How would we ever know? So you say I've known you guys for a long time. I remember in 2009, just about 10 years ago, when you guys were in Bermuda attending the music festival.
Right.
Your wife said to my wife that you guys had never had an argument. My wife came back and told me, and I've envied you all ever since. So I want to co-sign on what you just said there as being fully truthful.
You know, I didn't expect. I came here ready for anything, but it almost makes me want to cry, because, Rock, everything I've said has been true. My wife and I talked about the what ifs and the what have yous.
Yeah.
She told me to go on. I told her to go on. I always thought she would bury me, and she could still, because this is stressful.
Yeah.
But I've never lied.
Yeah.
I've never lied about anything I've said. And to have people, my people, your people, sit there and say the things that they say, never having met her.
Yeah.
I've had people put protective services on me because this guy out in D.C. lied. He lied. And so so I'm glad you said that, because I had no idea you were going to say that, but it touched me.
Yeah.
We had a world-class relationship. People don't even know. Don't even know. And I know my wife, and for somebody sitting in some room somewhere in nowhere land telling me what my wife is saying. I mean, I had people tell me, well, why don't you have makeup on her? You know, well, she has Alzheimer's now.
Yeah.
She smudges the makeup.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to wear it, and we're at home.
Yeah.
Oh, why do you, I had Whoopi Goldberg, I don't want to see this. Hey, Whoopi, you know what I want to say? I want to say, no one wanted to see Emmett Till, but they needed to see it to know what the reality is.
Yeah. I was going to say that in the intensity of us preparing for this segment, with it being such an important subject matter, and I really want to focus on what Alzheimer's is and what people go through that are suffering from it, and what caregivers go through. And I used at the top of the show there something, I haven't heard anybody else use this term yet regarding Alzheimer's, but that because so many people, so many more people every year are getting it, we've got to start to think about what the rules of engagement are for people who are suffering from it, for their caregivers, and what those caregivers do with the rest of their life. But I wanted to say this. Obviously, anybody who's paid any attention at all over the last 3 or 4 months now have noticed the surrounding hurricane of controversy.
Oh, yeah.
That has come your way. And I want to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, people have come for your head.
Oh, yeah.
In even a violent way.
Oh, yeah.
And
tried to mess with my dogs, everything.
Yesterday, and then when I say people have come for your head, primarily women.
Yeah.
Not all, but primarily women, and especially black women.
Oh, yeah.
I was in a barbershop yesterday. You know, I don't stay there long when I go, because ain't much for the barber.
I'm right behind you.
Ain't much for the barber to do. So, but 6 black guys were in the barbershop, and they were like, man, I understand that, a man has to move on. One of them said, yeah, but I don't know why it had to be with a white lady. That's one thing. And the others, they all said, why did he have to go public?
Yeah.
That he has another partner while he's caretaking for Ben. Just why he should have kept quiet. And your response to that is?
Well, first of all, I had someone on television say that on one of those chatty Cathy talk shows. And why didn't I keep it on the down low? I don't do down low. You know what down low is? Low down. I have no reason to hide what is something that my wife and I first discussed. Not only that, do you know how many tens of thousands of people in America are doing exactly what I'm doing? I'm giving people, and I'm an
You said you and your wife discussed.
Yes.
So for the sake of so many who pontificate
Yeah.
up from on high,
Yeah.
you and your wife discussed what about this?
Well, first of all, me and
about
my
this
wife,
particular aspect?
my wife and I discussed one, which most people don't have, and especially those folks who are so critical. Most of them, you know, in America, most people think like death is optional. The rest of the world understands it's a natural process. They don't have any preparations for, well, how do you separate assets? What do you want to give people? It all of a sudden happens, and the whole family swoops in like seagulls at a fish fry. We discussed about dying. We had an open discussion and about going on. And B.Smith is a true diva. Not these divas that yell and scream and go girl. I'm talking about she was classy.
Grand.
And yes, and casually elegant. Dan, I don't want you to, if something happens to me, I don't want you to sit there and pine. You take care of what you got to do. I know you're going to take care of me. And I said the same thing. I says,
You said the same thing to her.
absolutely. That's why I don't. But as I got to find out what was going on in our community, particularly, we don't like to deal with reality. We like to deal with reality shows that's not reality, but we don't like to deal with reality. We talked about this. Living your true life, having another relationship, going on, if you found someone that made sense. That's the truth. Well, she doesn't have to live in your house. Well, first of all, if from your open to the show, I had a beach house in the Hamptons.
Right.
She was escaping from that beach house.
B was.
B was
Yes.
escaping from that beach house every single day. I got a place down in Miami, living
Let
in
me
a
ask you a question.
let me just.
Okay. Okay.
I couldn't be down there because she was escaping. I sold that house and bought a house that was 4 acres contained, so that she could walk, she could get out. Even if she got out, she couldn't get away. I bought that house with an elevator, so that if at the time came, I could move her up and down or what have you. But there was never a question of if I was not going to have a relationship. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I got sick, and I had to get an operation, and I had met this person because they had basically said, I see how you're doing. If you ever want to talk, let me know. This is being Alex. We became friends. There was no thoughts or anything. But she also was going through, unbeknownst to me at the time, the same thing with her father. And I was advising her on what to expect and how to deal with it. And she was flying back and forth between New York and Germany. We became friends. When I was depressed, I was 30 pounds heavier. My blood pressure was off the charts. I was drinking too much. I'm sitting in a room with a person that's
Drinking too much, medicating yourself.
self-medicating myself, drinking dark and stormies. I still like Bermuda. But I realized I'm drowning. And she became a friend, and that friendship turned into something more. I have no qualms about my relationship. My relationship right now is going to become the new normal, because there are going to be more and more people living longer who are going to have to take care of people. And the question at 64, going on 65 years of age, with a woman who's 69 that could live another 10, 15 years, is, am I going to sit in a room and not have any outlet, not have any sense of communication, socialization, sharing? I cannot share anything with B anymore. I can't watch a movie. I was telling, what the toughest thing is? Going out. How would you like to go out and have to go to the restroom and take your wife to the restroom, have to get her into a stall, people coming in, a little lady coming in, hearing you say Now help me, take this down, take this down.
Yeah.
And she, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And then the commotion, then when you come out,
Right.
there's the manager, the maitre d', and 2 other people thinking you're molesting somebody.
Oh my God.
Or how would you like to have to fly on an airplane, and you know how small the laboratories are,
Sure.
and a person's getting up every 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and people don't know what's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and then having to take her and then putting her in the bathroom and she's not knowing what to do. That's hell. But let me, but she told me to tell, the book is the testament of where we were, where we are, and where we're going. I made that commitment to her.
Yes. And when you first talked about her leaving the house, her escaping the house, give us a snapshot. Did you attempt, when she would go and you would experience the panic, did you attempt to try to reason with her, or was it already where you knew that there was no opportunity to reason?
Well, first of all, you can't reason with someone that doesn't have in charge of their executive function.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's I talk to people all the time. You know, 2 brothers dealing with their mother, and one brother's trying to get her to stop doing what she doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
You can't tell someone with Alzheimer's, stop picking on the sofa, or pulling the threads out, or sit down. I want you to sit down, and you sit her down, and she pops back up.
There is no reasoning.
There is no executive function. There's no understanding. There's no reasoning. You know, I fell down once. The deer were outside. There was ice on the steps. The dog shot out, and I was trying to catch the dog, and I fell on my back, and I was down. And I had just bathed and clothed her, and the door was open, and 3 dogs went out chasing the deer now.
Yeah.
She comes to the door. She asks me, "Are you okay?" And I go, "No, I'm not okay." "Okay, thank you," and closes the door. That's the kind of situation that you have. So I'm very passionate about this because I've been an advocate, and to the guys in the barbershop, I'm doing this because I'm spreading the light on what Alzheimer's really is. That's what the book was. That's what I'm doing now. That's what she wanted me to do.
And you're taking some blows. I mean, some of the criticism.
Yeah.
And look, it has gone way beyond criticism into venom.
Oh yeah.
Absolute venom. I'm telling you, I had a prominent individual that I know text me a couple of times and say, this is an actress, as a matter of fact, I'll say that much. Text me a couple of times and say, I saw where you said you were going to have him on your show. Don't do it. Don't do it. Call me. And I was busy and I couldn't get around. I texted and said, hey, when do you want to talk? So they called me up. And Dan, they could not have been more passionate about the immorality of what it is that you have done and what you are doing. And you said something to me that was I think is the crux of this issue. And that is that what you are doing is going to be the new normal at some point or some modification thereof. And part of what I wanted this show to do was to examine, discuss, and confront what those rules of engagement would be, and someone who's in the belly of the beast, in the midst of the fire, to have you to share your thoughts about what thousands and millions of others are going to have to come to grips with. They're going to have to reconcile their situation and what is most healthy. How is it most healthy for them to proceed with the rest of their lives?
Well, you know what? First of all, as I said to you, B would have no problem. And then people are going to tell me what B would do. I was with B and still am with B. Yeah. I would want her to do the same thing. Being alone when you don't have to be alone makes absolutely no sense. It weakens you. You can't take care of somebody if you're miserable. You can't tell me that anybody who is in a room with a person who's no longer there is going to be happy. Could I put her in an institution? In a minute I could justify that.
Yeah.
I'm married to her, but there's a different way I love her now.
Yeah.
But I love her more than most of those people, and probably that actress, have ever had a relationship. I'm honest about, we talked about this, and we built businesses.
Yeah.
We did everything together.
Yeah.
Do you think I would do this if I didn't believe what I was doing was right? I'm not an idiot. I didn't get this far by suddenly, like they said I'm flaunting this woman. This is racism. This is the underneath all of this. If this was a black woman, no one would have ever wrote about this.
You're saying it may have, but you're saying it wouldn't have been nearly as bad.
They would have never wrote about it. I don't even believe they would have. If B was doing the same thing right now, because everyone thinks that I'm a Johnny-come-lately, they would say, well, you go, girl. You've been carrying him for the last, how many years?
That is some of the narrative that many try to perpetuate, that you were sort of borderline homeless and you came up by meeting B, and that she's carried you along the way. And they say, living off of B and exploiting what he got from B. And I want to give you an opportunity right here to share sort of what you were doing prior to meeting B, and then and how you've been as we said in the opening, an integral part of building the empire that you all both have constructed.
Sales and marketing at TV stations, Turner Broadcasting, senior vice president at King World, was there when Lou launched Wheel, Jeopardy, Oprah, and all those shows. Created Big Break with Natalie Cole, that launched R. Kelly and Eric Benet with Natalie Cole. Put the Essence Awards on television, owned the majority of the percent of profit for the Essence Awards for the first 4 years. The Newsweek Achievement Awards out of the Kennedy Center, I did that show. Took B's book, sold it as a television show. Took the book and the television show, sold it as a magazine. Took that when we got stopped, came up with an idea to create a thing called Transcultural and Afro-Asian. Went into Bed Bath & Beyond with one product, and now we have 400 products. We've done $500 million in sales. These people don't, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
They don't. It is so phenomenal that what I've learned is, if you want to understand what a person really is, look at what they say about someone when they don't know. They always, there's an old saying in business: when someone ever tells you it's not about the money, it's always about the money. These people have never, ever been in the restaurant, have never bought a product, no beef from a magazine. And because of their own failed relationships, or how men have treated them, are now trying to lay that on me. Well, that's not me. Anyone who knows me in the Hamptons, or knows me in the city, who knows what we've done, know that we've been two as one. And you know what? I know the statistics. I realized when I was drowning that I needed to have someone that I could have a relationship with to manage my unbelievably difficult relationship with B.
So for those caregivers, the millions who are out there, one blogger out on the West Coast constantly harps on, you took marriage vows.
Yeah.
And marriage vows says for better or worse, or for sickness and health.
Yeah.
And so her position really is that because of those marriage vows. Now, there are people caught up in whatever kind of religiosity that they're caught in, that are coming face to face with being a caregiver, their natural human needs, and their religion. That says when you take those vows for better or worse and that sort of thing. And to those who are out there struggling with those dynamics, you say what?
Oh, I say, look, I'm taking care of my wife. I'm saying you can interpret from the Bible, from Mosaic law, from whatever, when a man could or could not dispose of or not be married by virtue of things that are written 2,000 years ago. But I say to them, I'm in 2019, going to be 2020. I say I've studied enough to know firsthand what it's like to be a caregiver, being a caregiver. I know what it's like to have someone else in your life. I'm not in the mood to become a martyr for you. I'm not in the mood. My vow is to take care of her. At the end of the day, so many of these people have never ever had anyone take care of them. And I've had this conversation with B. I can look my God, maybe not their God, in the eye. I'm completely comfortable with this. I know, I don't even know how many people, but I know I'm going to be on a special on CBS right around the 11th of March or sometime in March. So many people are doing this. I knew that to make a difference, to come out was the right thing to do because I'm living a natural life. I can love B and be in love with someone else. I don't have 6 girlfriends. I'm not looking to be on the down low. I'm not hanging out trying to pick up 24-year-olds or 25-year-olds or something like that. But I do like having a relationship. I do like walking down the street, holding someone's hands, going to a movie, being able to talk about stuff, having dinner. We're a family.
You say your family, which absolutely brings me right to the next question of the person that you're, and how did I read that you described her? Life partner?
Yeah.
The woman that you're dealing with that has caused such a controversy.
Yeah.
You describe as life partner. As a life partner, would you mind sharing sort of the relationship and how she responds to B? Because someone just before we started this show today brought up the point. Not a whole lot of people would be willing to sign up
Oh, absolutely.
to be with someone
Absolutely.
who is so committed
Absolutely.
to someone who can't care for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So the question he had, and this was a gentleman, had anybody ever thought about that?
No, well, you know what? Let me be honest with you. The immorality, your friend, whoever that high-profile friend is, doesn't understand that people can like each other and have a relationship based on trust. She was there when I was sick. I was there when she was going through her father's institutionalization and ultimately dying. She is a kind-hearted person. You know, we live in a cynical society. We live in a society now where what I call the new pornography is to be cruel. We live in a society where it's easy to judge but have no facts. And so she's an amazing person. She's a caring person. You know, she's not a whore. She is not someone, she has her own townhouse. She has her own money. She has her own investments. But these people worry about that. Your friend.
Part of it was. Part of it was.
You know what that is?
Rock,
you know what? You've been successful. I'm born in Bed-Stuy. My mother had 3rd grade education. My father went to high school. He knew how to make money. I didn't come from, I wasn't born on some, bourgeois environment. I came up through my own grit and intellect. So I know where these people come from, and I try to get the hell away from those people because they're always worried about somebody else's money. They're always, what I remind them of, quite honestly, is what they didn't do.
Some of their worst relationships, perhaps.
Not only, but success. I've been successful I had to leave a lot of people behind when I came out of the neighborhood because they were standing on a corner. And you know what? The only thing they could do is take me back to the corner. You know, the only thing these people could do is be self-righteous and make a judgment because they see me with someone who's blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and they don't know that she helped me. Not financially, but emotionally and spiritually, you know?
Yeah, the venom is I think seeing some of the imagery, and the venom comes where it says that, you know, here it is once again, that this white lady is getting ready to exploit this individual situation. That's where I see a lot of the venom comes from.
Yeah, well, that's just pure racism.
So let me,
you know, that's just pure, that's you know, there's two types of AI in this society today. It's called artificial intelligence, and it's called anger and ignorance. And we suffer from and have more of that than we need to, and we need to have more artificial intelligence and understand to get outside of yourself and look at something from 30,000 feet. What am I saying? I've got a partner now who is helping me take care of someone. She has her own resources. I could literally ask her for something. That's how much resources she has. So the notion that Becky is being taken care of is a lie. And what happens with us is that we feel before we think. That's our biggest problem. And immorality, I mean, I've seen what some of these preachers have said, and you know, you go start looking at some of those backgrounds, and there's, please.
Yeah. So Dan, let's talk about, because what I think people don't understand, part of what you've done is you've been on the forefront. I saw a letter from Congressman Elijah Cummings' office, from him himself, that he signed. He signed himself, and it talked about the efforts that you had made to try to raise money, to try to help develop research. And I'd really like to, you know, talk about that.
I was part of a group that, Elijah to me is one of the, if I had a brother, a big brother, I would want it to be Elijah Cummings. He stands as a giant among men, much less among politicians. He is courageous, he is honest. I went to him and I said, we need to do something like the breast cancer stamp that raised $88 million for breast cancer. This is years ago. And he was the ranking member. He wasn't even the chairman of the oversight committee. And he said, Dan, I see what you're doing. I'm gonna try to work at it, and we worked at it. And Jason Chaffetz was actually, the Republican was actually the chairman. And everyone understood that this was something that was needed because Alzheimer's is like a tsunami. It's out there and it's coming back, and it's going to take a lot more. It's going to triple over the next 30 years. And you know who's going to get most of it? Black folks. You know who's going to get most of that? Black women. That's who's going to be. So a lot of these people complaining right now may be talking, maybe in need of some help themselves. The reason I put this out there is because I know in Europe, this is not considered crazy. This is not considered immoral. And throughout this country, what I did, and I did it deliberately, but I wasn't flaunting it. We've been together, and we celebrate Christmas, and we celebrate events, and we go for walks, and we have lunches and dinners, and we sit down and we dance and have dance. What's wrong with that? I sold a beach house, arguably one of the nicest beach houses in Sag Harbor, to have a house for Barbara with my money for all these people who know so much that know nothing. Am I angry? No. You know what I am? I'm from Brooklyn, and when you jump in my face with something that doesn't make sense, I'll jump back in your face. That's what I've done.
Dan, what, if you can kind of help us from an elementary point of view, that two mates are together, and it's natural, you know, we start to say, oh, what, can't remember her name, I can't, what's that phone number, and the other one might quietly start to say, I wonder if there's the onset of something here. Can you help us understand the sequence of, one, what B went through, and make that, grow that in terms of what typically people go through, what you see?
Well, having memory loss is a natural part of aging. The older you get, you tend to remember less. Where are my keys? Or I forgot that, or I know that person for 20 years, but I can't get their name. That's a natural and a given. It's when things start to take on a more repetitive nature. And you start to see behavioral swings, like emotional swings that come out of nowhere. That's when you start to ask those questions. But we all, hey, look, I can't, as a middle, a senior citizen now, I can't do or remember what I did when I was 30. But when you start to not be able to remember a lot of things, start to question a lot of things, get disoriented quickly, those types of things, hopefully you may not even recognize it, but that's when someone needs to step in and say, hey, I've noticed something, maybe we need to go get you cognitively tested. That happened with B. I hid for 5 years what I didn't know what was going on. I thought she was either working too hard because she loved to work, or she was having burnout or a breakdown. I thought I was worried it was psychological. When it comes to turn out, it was a disease, it was neurological. I'm on the board of the American Brain Foundation. I mean, we're dealing with 400 different brain diseases. So Alzheimer's is just one of several types of dementias.
And that's what I was going to ask, because people use it interchangeably. I don't know if that's correct or not, but they say Alzheimer's, dementia.
Right. Well, Alzheimer's is one form of dementia.
It's a form of dementia.
Like there's Lewy body, that Robin Williams had Lewy body disease, or there's vascular dementia. I mean, and there's other types. You can have dementia from CTE, from getting hit in the head. Brain trauma. What football players go through. But dementia is an overall umbrella. 60% of all dementias plus is Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is where this beta amyloid plaque builds up and it causes you to become impaired, not being able to do what you normally could do, not being able to think the way you normally think, not be able to respond the way you normally respond.
Do you, in all of how much you've been involved, are you seeing any progress?
Oh, you know what? There is progress in that they've been able to do. I've worked with some of the top doctors in my book. I mean, with Dr. Rudolph Tanzi. I mean, they've been able to create Alzheimer's in a petri dish. There are 2 or 3 dozen trials that are now in their second and third phases. The real problem, Rock, is that there's still not enough money. When Ebola came out, the government put $6 billion out just to try to turn this thing around and not make it a pandemic. But think about this. I think we had 100 people in this country that had it, or less than that. But think about this for a minute. Every 66 seconds, someone has Alzheimer's. It's diagnosed in America. Now let's divide that 66 seconds into all the seconds in a week. That's 10,000 people a week. Can you imagine if there were 10,000 people contracting Ebola? There would be $100 billion donated. We're nowhere near that $6 billion for Ebola. It's a civil rights issue. The 21st century civil rights issue. Alzheimer's, 2 out of 3 people are women. Blacks are twice as likely to have Alzheimer's as non-whites. Hispanics are like 1.7, 1.8. If you're 85 and you're black, you have a 1 in 2 chances of having Alzheimer's. So what does that mean? That means you get to that ripe old age, and either your assets are going to be dwindling or evaporated because you've got to be institutionalized, or your children, who are now probably in their 50s ready to retire, are going to have to either sell your house, their house, give up certain things to take care of you. And quite honestly, the stress on that can create Alzheimer's in the next generation. So it's, and poor people are disproportionately impacted because of the cost. You know, to take care of somebody basically is
You are
100,000.
describing a pending catastrophe,
Oh,
an epidemic.
It's going to, it could bankrupt the healthcare system. We're going to go from 5.5 million to like 15, 16 million. So if you just say 2 people are going to take care of people with Alzheimer's in the next 30 years, that's going to be 30 million just with Alzheimer's alone, not the other forms of brain pathology, brain morbidity. Yeah, I realized when B and I walked out of Mount Sinai, she said, tell the story, Dan. Don't let anybody else tell the story, and you live your life. You live your life. That's the kind of relationship. So, you know, I have to smile because I'm passionate about this. What you said, your wife said was true. We never argued. I don't lie. I don't have to lie. I don't feel guilty. I don't know what someone else's morality is about what they feel, but that's not I love B. I'm in love with Alex. I'm trying to live my best life. I'm happier. I can do more. I wish all of these people that you've talked to in the barbershop or on phone, why don't they do something about standing up for Alzheimer's? Why don't they make a contribution? Why don't they come out? Because you know what? Most of the folks that are going to get it, it's going to be black, and they're going to be black women. They're going to over-index, twice as likely. So if it's going to double or triple over the next 20 or 30 years, those people in their 20s and 30s and 40s right now are going to be the ones that are going to have to deal with it in 2040, in 2050. We don't, you know, one thing, we are still living from the stigma of Tuskegee. So we don't participate in drug trials. So what's going to basically happen in 2036 or 2040 or whatever, we're like 3 to 4 or 5% of the people who participate in drug trials. A 70-year-old white guy and a 50-year-old black woman have totally different genetic makeups.
Sure.
So drugs work different. Just like with high blood pressure, there are some drugs African Americans can't take because they just don't work because of the way we're structured genetically. So because we don't have the number of people participating in these trials to see what will and won't work, we're going to be like what is with stroke. We're going to be in the same boat 30 years from now, and other demographic populations are going to be either it's going to be mitigated or it might even be eliminated. So that's why I came out. This is, you know what this is like for me? I now understand what it's like for gays to come out. Back in the day when you couldn't be gay, you could get beat up or you could, this is the same thing. I now have a greater appreciation. I'm living my true life. I found someone that I care about. I'm going to take care of my wife. I'm going to take care of my life partner.
And you decided to be public about it, and you are receiving an enormous amount of abuse.
I'm not stupid, but I know one thing. 10, 20 years from now, they're going to look back and say, he had the strength to say, this is, extended family is going to become the way of the world. You're going to have more people in the family just to take care of medical costs. You're going to have, when somebody is totally incapacitated, you're going to have to. And why? You know, when someone says to me, well, you know, my dad, he spent 25 years taking care of my mother. I said, well, how did he feel? So what did he do? Well, what contributions could he make?
Critical.
What could he make? What?
Critical.
You know, well, you know, and I'm not your dad. I'm going to be productive. I'm going to try. I'm 65 years old. What? I got 20 years. You know, there's 36,500 days in 100 years.
So I think I know the answer to the question, given all that you've said, and that was, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it just what you've done now?
I wouldn't even breathe. I'd do it exactly the same way. You don't make a difference by hiding. I stand for what I'm doing. I don't care what anyone thinks. They don't live my life. You know, I don't care what these religious people say. I'm a God-fearing, God-loving person. But I know one thing. For me to be stroked out, for me to not be able to take care of B, I'm not doing it.
You know, man, a trailblazer is the one that goes into the bush first.
Yeah.
And that trailblazer gets slapped in the face and hit upside the head and stabbed in the side.
Oh, yeah. And even eaten by the lions.
That's right. Because they are blazing a trail.
Oh, yeah.
That makes it a little better and easier for others. And I think that how people look at you with many different thoughts, I would want to say to my audience here, think about that aspect of what is happening, because you are doing some trailblazing.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they agree with the tactic or not, it is critically important. So, man, thank you for coming in here today.
Oh, hey.
God bless you.
Rock, my pleasure.
And you, I'm really glad you made the trip.
I just want to say one last thing. I appreciate you giving me a forum and allowing me to tell the truth. All of these other people don't know me, don't know us.
We got a wrap. Thank you so much. Okay. Folks, indeed, that wraps us for this evening. For more information on this program or any other program produced by WHUT, go to WHUT.org. Goodbye, and God bless you.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.